Part 67. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 663. 66 People with Stories. Exactly. Yekong quickly swallowed his drool. Oh, the woman hummed and turned her face. The sides are so beautiful, and the front is certainly more beautiful, but her beauty is more fresh and refined, like a fairy in a painting. But when this woman saw Yekong, she stunned and said, "Are you an ordinary person?" Yekong had a good impression of the beautiful goddess, but he did not expect to be a layman who only rebuilt. He hummed at the moment, "Yes, it is a mortal underneath." "Not bad temper," the woman laughed, and said, "I'm not surprised that you are mortal. Before you came up, Lin told me. I was surprised that you turned out to be an ordinary human." Yekong didn't understand this time. Is there a difference between ordinary people and mortals? What does it mean for ordinary human beings? Is there any special human being? The woman was also hilarious by her own explanation, and continued, "I thought you should be a shadow clan, but I didn't expect it to be. It seems that this wine is not made by you." The woman was talking, the smile on her face went dark. Suddenly she sighed and waved, "Okay, you go out." Yekong was stunned again. Heart said, "Aren't you sick? Call me up to the 5th floor and say something inexplicably just drive me away. Why treat me like a monkey? Dare to ask the gods, why did you judge that this wine was not made by me when I was not a shadow clan?" Yekong asked. Seeing that the boy didn't leave, the woman asked herself instead. She frowned and chanted, "This wine is only available to the Ying clan. I also drank it that year, and only the Ying clan from the Pipa kingdom can make this wine." Who? Yekong couldn't help but want to say that she was nonsense, said a word, quickly hugged, and changed his tongue, "So if the has drunk, what name does this wine have?" The woman heard him say who, and she was already furious. "You mortal dare to say such a thing to the god, do you want to die?" But then, she became interested in Yekong's questioning again, and asked, "Do you know what it is?" "Of course I know." Yekong looked up. Huanqian is passionate, just for the night of spring. After the hug, he groans slowly, and the newcomer becomes old. This wine is called Huan. Slow groaning after the rejoicing, the newcomer becomes the old one. The woman repeated the sentence, but her eyes spread and blurred, as if returning to many years ago. "It's a woman with a story?" Ye hollowed out. "But for any god, how can there be no story in their long life?" The groaning after rejoicing, "This name is really appropriate." The woman returned to God for a while, then smiled slightly, and asked, "It seems that I am ignorant. I was living in the Pipa realm of the Shadow clan in order to be promoted to the divine age. After 60 years, I once drank this joy and groaned, so I thought that only the talents of the clan had this wine, but I didn't expect it was not the case." Yekong understood that Bachan was the male Shadow clan who had been linked to this prince for 60 years. Legend has it that male Shadow celebrities are handsome and romantic, and they can also write poetry at concerts. These are the objects that these women are obsessed with. But strangely, why did Yunyeo's Shadow clan make this kind of wine? Isn't this Acacia's specialty? Regardless, the key issue is where the Pipa realm is. Sooner or later, this owner of the Shadow clan will go. So many sisters of the Shadow clan wait for themselves. God, dare to ask where is this Pipa realm, and how can you reach it? Yekong asked quickly. "Why do you want to go to Pipa realm?" The woman laughed. Yekong scratched his head. "I want to see if Huanhoyin is authentic there. In addition to Huanhoyin, is there any hurry to sell it?" This time it was the turn of the deified period, and the woman was curious, and asked, "Is there a hurry before Huan? It is also a kind of wine. How does it compare to this Hao-Yin? Why have I never heard of it?" Yekong was stunned. "Sister Shenjun, wouldn't you be the legendary female alcoholic?" "Well, since you asked, Let me tell you a story. It is said that in the distant Kangnan continent, there are a group of happy smurfs, no, there are a group of happy male and female monks. Over time, they formed a sect called Hehuan. This Hehuan zone is best at men and women. They are handsome men and charming women. The goddess laughed awfully. What a word it was a show of love for men and women. But listening to it, the goddess Junqiao blushed a bit. It turned out that the anxious Huanqian was consumed by men and women before, aphrodisiac, and drinking to do that kind of thing. Originally, the goddess wanted to ask the sun for some hurry before trying, but now I am sorry to hear that, while someone is still saying those half-yellow and non-yellow words, the goddess interrupted with anger. Well, don't talk about this, listen to upset. You are listening to itching. A hooligan secretly glanced at the goddess, only to see a layer of rosy mist on her cheeks, and she did not know whether it was stimulated by alcohol or by her own words. A woman is a woman, even if she is a god. Since you answered my question, I will answer your question, too, said the goddess. The Peeper realm is located in the central part of Yunyeo 8000 realms. Although it is far away, it is not difficult to find, as long as you keep going to the central position. You can go, but I advise you to dispel this idea, not to mention that you will encounter all kinds of evil sects on this way, just to say that the spiritual stones needed for this way to pass through countless teleportation arrays are astronomical figures. The most dangerous is the big sky. The whole country collapsed. Even if I was in the late Yuanying year, I almost died. Looking at the goddess with a lingering fear, Yekong wondered, Daishan Cheng? The whole country collapsed. Yes, the goddess nodded and said, you should know that the so-called 8000 realms are small continents one after another. The islands generally float in the Kangming Sea. The Kangming Sea is not so calm, and sometimes there are meteorites. Sometimes, there are giant monsters in Kangming, and sometimes there are battles with monks who are trained in depth. These may cause the matrix to collapse and the land to break up. This is the great heaven. In that case, not everyone is floating in space. People in such a state are dead. Yekong was surprised. The goddess said, of course, the environment in the Kangming Sea is bad, and there is no air for people to live on. All kinds of tiny particles and light that cause people to die. Only the gods during the deification period can temporarily resist. It's only temporary. If you can't find other realms in time, you will only have a dead end. It's so powerful even Yekong couldn't help but be surprised. This big sky dump is too horrible, never to encounter it. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 664. Make a fortune. Thinking about the humans living in Yunyeo, I was not very happy. I was shocked and scared all day. Maybe one day, Tian fell on my head. When the whole situation collapsed, everyone died, there was nowhere to escape. Yekong asked again, if this is the case, isn't Yunyeo 8000 realms less and less? This is not the case. The holy demon sect will have a way to open up territory and establish new settlements. In fact, it has now exceeded 8,000. Yekong was even more surprised. What kind of sect is this holy demon sect, and how can it open up territory in the universe? But how does the word holy devil make people listen so unpleasantly? Doesn't it have anything to do with the holy devil Bora? God, what is going on with this holy demon sect? Yekong asked. But this time the goddess didn't say anything. She set a face, and said, say less, some things no more, and it's not good for you. Besides, I don't know anything about this holy demon, but only know that they are so deep and terrible. Oh, that's it? At this time, the goddess said again, since you can make this wine, you can take it out. How many spirit stones are needed, despite the price? Yekong shook his head and said, God, these wines were not made by myself, but a friend of my Acacia family gave me a few £100 that year. I didn't want to sell them, but I saw that I was getting married and I was short of money. Sell. The goddess laughed. Is the Yan family selling medicines unable to even afford the money for the wedding banquet? I don't care how much you sell, and when someone will negotiate with you, you can just speak. But now, this small bottle it's not enough for me to drink. You take out a pot and let me drink. Women are fickle, and the goddess who had been supreme above all now asked for wine in a coquettish manner, and his expression was as delicate and charming as the cute little girl next door. A pair of watery eyes looked at you, making you unable to refuse. Yekong was so disoriented that he almost took her wine out of the storage ring in front of her. But Yekong was sober in a moment, and laughed. The prince waits a moment, I'll run back to Yan's house to get wine. If the prince can't wait, you can let Lin Zixin's shopkeeper send me back to get it. This mortal man in Yekong's hand can use a storage ring of great value, and the secret contained in the ring is even more shocking, so he will never let anyone know that this ring is a storage ring. The goddess also suddenly wanted to drink. After listening to Yekong's saying, she still had to go back to get it. She was a bit boring, and waved her hand. Right. Soon, there was a beautiful big sister, Huang Shishi, in the room. Some say it's a beauty again. No way, there is no ugly monk, and beauty is naturally a lot. Some people say, haven't all beautiful women gone to cultivate? Actually not, whether you can cultivate an immortal depends on qualifications, even if you look like a pig, as long as you have a good root, all the major factions cry and cry for you. People are not afraid of ugliness, as long as they have good qualifications. In Zongmen, a practice of exercises, a row of impurities in the body, the odor of foot odor, and the birthmark scars on the skin were gone. A fragrant milk girl was born. If it's not enough, it doesn't matter, take medicine. There are too many elixirs for beauty, and they all have wonderful effects, much stronger than those of skincare products on the earth. Usually this way, the sow has become a fairy. If you get around in a circle and you can only be regarded as an average beauty, it means that you have a poor background. Closer to home, the Huang Shishi took Yekong to the other room. If the goddess June was beautiful and fresh, it was awe-inspiring. That Huang Shishi is extremely beautiful and beautiful. When people see her, they think about what the layman loves to do, and her big talking eyes make her seduce you at a glance. Brother Ye family, how many £100 do you have after drinking wine? 300 pounds. Would it be a piece of spirit stone per caddy? Huang Shishi deliberately stretched her waist and held her chest up. Seeing Yekong drooling, Huang Shishi was amused in heart. All men are like this. Alas, another stupid man. Brother Ye, a pound of spirit stone, you promised me. Huang Shishi stiffened again. Yekong nodded and smiled. A pound of spirit stone is no problem. Sister Shishi's figure is really good. Huang Shishi is overjoyed. 300 pounds only requires 300 spirit stones. Oh my god, it's too cheap. She was in a good mood and couldn't help letting someone take advantage. She deliberately bumped Yekong's shoulders and let him feel the bouncing and softness of her breasts. She laughed softly in her mouth. This is the 300 spirit stones, you little ghost, do NT go back to get wine. Yekong couldn't think of it, but his eyes closed, and he smiled. Sister Shishi, the pound of a stone I said was the pound of a fine stone. Do you dare to play with me? Huang Shishi suddenly ran away. This little guy is too bad. Beifu ate his own tofu, and a Yuanying Zhenjun was eaten by a mortal little guy. What's playing with you? Of course it's a pound of top-grade spirit stone. Do you think it's a pound of top-grade spirit stone? Even ordinary wine in the appetite building is not just the price. Sister Shishi, do you think this is possible? Ye was righteous, no longer confused. But it can't be a pound of top-grade spirit stone. You are just wine, not life-saving elixir. Huang Shishi ate a dumb loss, and said in his heart, the old lady really hit you. The sister Shenjun in the room just said that the price is free. I said, Sister Shishi, don't care about me. Someone laughed high. A pound of top quality spirit stone. If Yu Minghui's kid knows that the wine he gave away can sell for 3 million, it is estimated that this guy can go crazy. She doesn't count. I'm in charge of Lingxi's affairs. I'm in charge of finances. You want to sell 3 million for some broken wine? Huh, you're not afraid of us killing people for wine. Yekong was helpless. Sister Shishi, you are the true prince of Yuanying, and you are standing behind the of transformation. If you want to grab my wine, I will naturally be unable to resist, but if you are all heavy people, if you spread it out, who else dares to do business with you? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 665. 665 Good men let evil women. Huang Shishi was told by him that it was not easy to threaten him. You make an offer with one word of mouth and one with a land counterattack. You come and go and you don't know how many rounds of confrontation. Finally, you set the price at 3 pounds of top-grade spirit. At this price, Yekong's 300 pounds of wine also sold 1 million spirit stones. Really huge profits. Yekong really wanted to go back to Kangnan to sell wine. Well, I'll be careful to mix it with my old lady in the iron painting realm in the future. Otherwise, you will feel better. After talking about the price, Sister Huang Shishi did not forget to threaten him. Future things, let's talk about it later. Yekong had something in his words. He, what happened in the future? It's not yet, how can I know? To say that this boy really is a hooligan, if Huang Shishi Zhenjun knew what he was thinking at the moment, Bachan broke his fifth limb on the spot. Do NT talk nonsense, go back and get wine. We are waiting for you, Huang Shishi said, and kicked someone out. He yelled at the door and said, boy, don't you play with any ideas, otherwise the whole the Yan family is not enough to bury you. Yekong shouted, Sister Shishi, your spiritual stone has not been given to me yet, what ideas can I play? But please prepare 1 million spiritual stones, otherwise I will really play with ideas. Boy, what are you talking about? Linzi, daring to talk nonsense, pulled him out of the building. As soon as Yekong's back disappeared, Huang Shishi's stretched face couldn't help laughing, and said softly, boy, play with your sister, you're still tender. Huang Shishi returned to the room, and the goddess said with a smile, Sister Shishi, isn't it interesting to the boy, or should he get him back to Zhongli for some time? Huang Shishi yelled, Sect, what do you say? The goddess smiled, although the women of our ancestors can no longer bear children, it is still possible to have some fun. Not all other elders in the ancestors have raised a few men to pass the time. You can also raise a few white faces. Huang Shishi yelled, Sect, what do you say? I don't look down on mortals, I just think that a 3-pound stone is really cheap. The goddess smiled, yeah, when I was in Pipa several hundred years ago, this wine sold a pot of top-grade spirit stone, only 1 or 2 per pot. At that time he often. When the goddess came here, she did not know what sadness came to her mind, and she frowned. Besides Yekong and Linzishan. In fact, Linzishan also wanted some groaning, but he was embarrassed to say that he was about to go downstairs before he opened his mouth. Yekong has a total of 4 cylinders, a cylinder of 100 pounds, 3 cylinders sold to the goddess June, and 1 cylinder. But he won't take out the last one again. After all, he already has 1 million spirit stones, which is enough, and he will keep the rest. But Linzishan's father and son are quite good buddies, so to give face, and if not for them, their business would not be successful. Lin shopkeeper, in fact, in addition to the one sold to the gods, I also saved 10 kilos to drink for myself. Since you have spoken, I will not stay, Take out the 10 kilos together, make a friend, don't be a spiritual stone, free for you. Yekong was on the road, Lin Zishan was overjoyed, thinking of the scent of the wine, he was drooling. Yekong Xiao, I will make a deal with your friend. You will enter the building in the future, and you will be able to go up several floors. Xianxia meta yuanying Zhenjun. It was worth it. Yekong was in a good mood. He went out of his stomach and was surprised to find that Yanshuai was still waiting. Hey, why haven't you left yet? Yekong was a little confused, looked around, and asked, what about your cousins? Yanshuai smiled softly, they were driven home by me. In fact, Wu Changling and Yan Hexiang had to leave by themselves. When they heard that someone knew the god of change, they couldn't stay there anymore. Thinking of their unfriendliness to someone just now, let's go quickly, if that kid please ask the to come out to remediate yourself, for fear that even if he was killed, the teacher would not dare to fart. Yanshuai stayed for a purpose, not because he knew him because he knew the god of God, but because he was curious about him, he wanted to dig into his boss and see what the kid was doing. Shueshui, go and catch the car. Miss Yan gave a command and then pulled Yekong into the car. Officials, let's make a car and go back together. Yekong couldn't help but sigh, in the end it was the young lady who went out with her 2 legs, but they came by car. In fact, the monk is not as fast as flying, but everyone is not in a hurry. The car is more elegant, the car is not large and can take 2 or 3 people. This is a women's car and it is really fragrant. Brother, yeah, why did the treasurer let you go up to the 5th floor? Which wants to see you? Why does he want to see you? What did you talk about? As soon as the car moved, Yanshuai couldn't wait to ask. Yekong was stunned. Although she knew that Yanshuai suddenly changed her attitude to listen to the news from herself, she did not expect this girl to be so direct. Pretty girl, if you want to listen to the news, you have to look at the news. You ask so many times, are you interrogating me? Yekong lazily leaned his back on the top of the carriage and reached out to grab a spirit fruit. Take a bite. Sitting, not a good person at first glance. Yanshuai squeezed her temper, swallowed her voice, smiled, and said, actually, I don't care about you. Yekong sent her a grimace. Do you care about my trousers? She had swallowed it, but if someone still did, she couldn't pretend. Yeah, do you want to fight? I talk to you well, and you just have this attitude? Do you want me to fight with you to be comfortable? Yanshuai Lumei raised angrily. To be honest, Yekong was comfortable only when she saw her anger, and her posture with accent was too fake. Why? You always care about my trousers. Yanshuai was going crazy, and she felt that the most shameful thing in this life, this guy also repeatedly mentioned, I killed you. As soon as Yekong didn't look good, the tigress was powerful. Forget it, the bachelor doesn't suffer the loss, and the good man will let you this evil girl. Don't you wait for me to finish talking. Yekong laughed. Actually, you care about my trousers, and it's true that you have a song to control the population in our hometown, which is to sing a trousers. Crap. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 666. 66 Shuai stealing wine. I don't believe you. I sing to you, a pair of trousers is wide, and the wind is blowing across the scent of rice flowers. My home is here, and my trousers live. Yekong was here, and he couldn't go on, he shouted, sing something, pants live. I didn't become that, didn't I scold myself? Bash Yanshuai could not help laughing, thinking of what she saw that day, the song was really an image. Yekong straightforwardly said, it's your own thoughts. Your pants are just a piece of clothing. Yanshuai pointed at Yekong, she didn't know what to say. Blame him, it looks like he's a bit crooked. Don't blame it, How can you tell me these things to a big girl? Well, forget it. Yekong waved his hand. I said nothing else and didn't want to embarrass you. I just want you to understand that although I am a hooligan, I have been admonishing myself all these years, be a tasteful hooligan. So Miss Yan, I'm not interested in you, don't be suspicious. Huh. This is the best, Xianxia said with gritted teeth. When the matter is over, everyone does not owe each other how far you can go. But when she finished, she felt uncomfortable again, because he had taste, so he was not interested in me. Am I really that bad? There was no speech all the way, and the Yan family was not far away. Both of them looked down and thought about each other. What Xianxia thought was that this boy was really powerful. He pulled my nose and turned around. I asked him questions and he didn't answer any of them. Yekong focused his thoughts on that god. The tone of the goddess showed that she knew the realm very well, so there were two princes in the realm, one iron-armed demon, and that was a man. And the other, isn't it, she is also a painting. Yekong had already guessed that the goddess prince painted the demon of the demon lord, Li Chenjun. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but get cold sweat. He and Yan Fenjian were conspiring to pass in the election of Hui in Mozong. If Li Chenxian could see the flaws, he would not be so polite today. Back at Yan's house, Yekong shook off Xianxia, walked back to his house, put a ring of storage, and released 3 large bottles of wine. I found a few gourds and loaded them with 10 caddies. This was for Linzishan. But shipping is a problem. Yekong is immortal, the storage bag is no longer needed, and the storage ring cannot be found. You can't push it with a trolley? It's really inconvenient. Yekong frowned, thinking about it. I asked the little sister Shueshui to help. The guy in the refining period can use a storage bag. Yekong hurriedly went out to find Shueshui. But as soon as he left, a moving figure sneaked into his room. Where is there so much wine? As soon as Xianxia entered the door, she saw 3 large jars of wine, and there was the word Hehuanzong on the altar. Hehuanzong, I haven't heard of it, but the name is not a serious sect. If the ancestors of Hehua sect Yitong are present, I must say, I am, you all are not the sects. Although Xianxia no longer held her to her trendy trousers, she became more interested in the mysterious person, and then sneaked into his room. Seeing that the 3 large jars of wine had not been unsealed, she wanted to knock open a jar. Fortunately, she saw the wine gourd next to her. If it really cracked the altar seal, it is estimated that Yekong would have killed her. Yeah, good wine, so tender. Xianxia took another big sip, and began to want to enter Fifi. Could it be that he went to the appetite building to buy wine for the magpie 3 days later? I can't see that he's kind, don't look at him saying that he is not interested in me, who knows if he also misses the mind of Miss Ben. Man with bad intentions, coward. You have a crush on Miss Ben, rest assured, I won't give you a chance. Xianxia, while drinking, was thinking about something good, and the more she thought about it, the more happy she was, and she forgot to leave. When Yekong brought Shueshui back, as soon as he pushed the door, he saw that a woman was blushing and drunk. Hey! Why are you stealing my wine? Stop drinking, it's expensive. Hey, you still drink. Xianxia was only in the early days of the foundation, and she couldn't hold back the power of the spirit wine, and she sighed and regained her strength. After drinking too much, she was drunk. Why don't you just buy it and drink it? Xianxia was a little drunk and smiled at Yekong. Shueshui quickly said, Miss, this wine was not bought by my aunt, he was going to sell it. Xianxia was discouraged for a long time, not like I thought. Boss, just drink some of your wine, and count how much money comes back. Xianxia stands up unhappy. Forget it, don't sneak into my house quietly, I don't want to have a third round. Xianxia snorted. Why, this is my house. I can enter whenever I love. Then I will not wear pants in the room next time. Yan Shuai shouted through Jijin, scared me? Wouldn't you show a wide wave on your pants? I haven't seen it. Ye Kong angered, I don't wear any trousers this time. I'll see you in again. Ha 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 ha, don't you just live in your pants? Don't stare at me, you sing yourself. The two of them were so noisy that Shui was about to vomit blood. This ant and the lady are really enemies. They just quarrel if they meet, and the louder they get, the worse they become. Oh my god, these two people are too nasty. In order not to be polluted by my pure heart, I still stay away. Shui quickly covered her ears and fled. Who knew that Shui had just come out and hadn't breathed for 2 breaths? It seemed that the two people who were noisy and hot just came out. It seemed that the young lady was quite happy. Ah, I really don't understand, I don't understand. Shui could not help but sigh in his heart. In fact, the two people stopped arguing completely from a word of Yan Shuai. During the quarrel, Yan Shuai suddenly asked angrily, where did you get these big vats of wine? Do you have storage utensils? If mana is in his body, Ye may kill someone at this moment. This is his biggest secret. It is known that he has such a fetish. If he does not destroy someone, he will destroy him. But unfortunately, someone is not as good as mortal at the moment. He didn't have the ability to die. Of course, there is a lot of bad water in a man's stomach, and there is not much to do to kill people without a knife, but when he was thinking about a bad move, Yan Shuai spoke again. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 667. 667 Line up. Let's keep it secret, you must promise me a condition. Say. Take me to look at the 5th floor of the Appetite building. I have never been to the 5th floor. That's it. Ye Kong laughed. I thought, I was too nervous. This Yan Shuai is just a little girl, although wayward, but not vicious. How can I just want to kill her? Besides, the old man Yan also saved himself. If it hurt his daughter, didn't I also become a Zhongshan wolf? Relax, things don't have to be murdered. Okay, the shopkeeper Lin told me, the 5th floor of the mouth and belly floor, you can go to any floor. Ye Kong laughed. Really, it's great. I thought I would stop on the 2nd floor in this life. Yan Shuai thought that she would go to the 5th floor for dinner, and her hatred for someone had subsided. But Ye Kong also said, but today it is not possible. Do you know who invited me to the 5th floor today? It is the Li Qingxun, who is the master of picture and sound magic. If you go today, you are likely to meet her. Ye Kong thought he said that Yan Shuai would be scared to go. After all, the Yan family is now worried that she was selected into the Huayan demon sect. Of course, the fewer people who are the best, the better. But who knew? Yan Shuai's eyes brightened and said excitedly, is it really Li Qingxun? I want to see her even more. You don't know, she is my idol, she is beautiful, she is so tall, if just let her sign my name. Ye Kong fainted. I did not expect Yan Shuai to be a fan of Li Qingxun. Alas, it seems that there is no shortage of fanatics in any era. Well, it's okay to take you there, but you can't talk nonsense, otherwise let her fancy and force you to join the picture and sound demon. I can't explain to your parents. I promise not to talk nonsense. Ye Kong nodded and said, okay, then don't ask Shui for help, use your storage bag to pack the 3-cylinder wine, and follow me. They came by car all the way back, delaying a lot of time. In the building on the other side, Li Chenzheng and Huang Shishi couldn't wait. Waiting for others is really bad. After a minute, it is as long as an hour. The kid won't play with us, right? Huang Shishi could not help but doubt. He doesn't have that courage. Li Chenxian smiled slightly, but still held the little wine gourd in his hand. If you pay attention, you can see that the wine in the gourd is still full. In other words, after Li Chenxian got this wine gourd, she never took a sip. Not to drink, but not to drink. She was afraid to drink it and it would be gone. To others, it was just a small gourd wine, but to her, it was a memory. Once upon a time, I just held a small glass like this, and filled it with a glass of Happy Queen. A man across the face was so clear. Even after all these years, it is still so clear. Not just a man, Huang Shishi snorted. If you want to talk about Li Chenai's thoughts, I am afraid that the world knows best than Huang Shishi. Li Chenai smiled, covered the small wine gourd, put it away, and said, Sister Shishi, you haven't been in love, you don't understand. She stood up and said, the kid should go back by car, and we should have arrived. We go downstairs and wait. The kid is a mortal, and he can't be allowed to move the 3 large bottles of wine to the 5th floor and move on. Huang Shishi hummed, sly little mortal, let him move up, move on, and exhaust him. Li Qingxun smiled and said, just because of his small arms and calves, he can't move up after exhaustion, haha. When Li Chenzheng brought Huang Shishi downstairs, his smile was gone, and the frost-like beautiful face looked at the men on the 4th floor and the 3rd floor, and they looked down in a hurry. But wait for Li Chenai to leave. All the men looked with a keen eye again, not the back of Li Chenai, but the stairs leading to the 5th floor. How powerful is the God of God! We must also work hard to cultivate. Someday we will also climb the 5th floor to see the scenery. In such a weak and strong world, women are nothing. Cultivation, strength is the ultimate goal that people pursue. But with strength, did Li Qingxun reach the end of the transformation? Did he really find happiness? Mr. Li, is she beautiful? What does she like to eat? What kind of hairstyle does she wear? What size shoes do she wear? Hearing these questions, the smart and intelligent Ye only had to stare at Yan Shuai, and then his eyes shot like an idiot. Sister, I just met her. I can't answer these questions you asked, but I can definitely tell you that with the beauty of Li Chenai, I can definitely enter the top 5 of the beautiful women I've seen. Yan Shuai immediately expressed her dissatisfaction with someone's words. Qi, how many beautiful women have you seen? But when she finished speaking she suddenly remembered something and asked, then you the first beauty I think, won't it be me? Ye Kong turned over and bleed, and his nose and mouth bleed. Oh my God, kill me. I have never seen such a narcissist. They bothered up to the mouth and belly building, and were stopped by Huang Shishi, who was standing. Ye Kong stretched his head out of the carriage, and saw Huang Shishi, Lin Zixin and Lin Jinwei waiting at the door. Behind them, stood a large row of beautiful girls with magic sounds, and then there were a few rows in the second uniform. Diarrhea service staff. Wow, Ye Kong, I can't think of such a famous, so many people greeted in line, the pomp is so big. Yan Shuai could not help but marveled. You stop talking nonsense. Ye Kong blushed. This is how to greet myself, this is a farewell to the Li Qingxun. The dead girl didn't know a little noise, and she was dead. Yeah, your future husband-in-law is so famous that he went up to the 5th floor directly from the burning room. Huang Shishi walked over with a pair of melons. Ye Kong's old face was even redder. It seems that women still offend less, and they can expose you in public. After Huang Shishi finished speaking, he said to Ye Kong, okay, we've been waiting for you for a long time. Let's take out the 3-cylinder Huan Yin. Ye Kong felt like he was back on Earth, and he took a younger brother to play the drug trade with the other party. He hurried forward and pulled Yan Shuai behind him, raising his chest and saying, of course the goods are brought, but according to the rules, we have to check the money first. Huang Shishi snorted, what rules? After that, she took out a small black bag from the storage ring and threw it to Ye Kong, look at it yourself. If a monk uses the knowledge of God to know how many spirit stones are inside, but Ye Kong is immortal now, he can't count it out, so he has to throw it to Yan Shuai, see if it is 1,000,000 spirit stones. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 668. The End of the Handsome Guy. 1,000,000 spirit stones. Xianxia was about to startle her chin. She knew Ecchi was selling wine, and she knew it was good wine, but she didn't know that the 3-cylinder wine was worth 1,000,000 spirit stones. Her Xianxia pharmacy does not have a 1-year turnover. Is this still wine? This is fairy water. Don't fret, hurry up. Ecchi seemed to be much taller when he scolded the girl. Oh, Xianxia was deterred by his imposing manner. Rarely he didn't turn back, put the consciousness in a small bag, and examined the spirit stone. Huang Shishi said with a smile, people say that Yan's girl is so hot that she can't think of it in front of you. Oops, it's really one thing and one thing, she said, holding her arms, and walking 2 steps left and right, looking at Ecchi. He smiled again. How come I can't see what you have? It's not handsome. NND, isn't this woman having a psychological problem? If not, I'll just hit you with your milk. It won't hurt me in public like this, right? Didn't see so many people laughing behind? This, Sister Huang Shishi, in fact, there is a sentence in our hometown. Ecchi paused and waited for everyone's attention to come together. Then he smiled. Our hometown has a sentence called, the more handsome the man, the faster you die. Our hometown describes a man who is handsome, and he will say that this person looks like Panan. Said that this person named Panan is handsome, so every time he walks on the street, many women will tease him. He deliberately threw fruit on him. Panan was also smart, so every time he went out, he pushed a car and let those fruits fall into the car. Every time he went out, he would be filled with a cart of fruit. This is the story of a fruit-throwing car. But the handsome man didn't know how to converge. The boss's wife, Xiaomi, asked him to go out for a drink and see a small show. He never refused, so he was pushed by his boss to a remote mountain village. Plant peach trees. Reasonably, you can converge, but this Panan is still doing his own thing, continuing to go out with the shopkeeper's wife, Xiaomi, for coffee and steaks, and finally leads to resentment, a different place, really a handsome man who died. The most miserable one. Everyone couldn't help but sigh after listening. This Panan was really too much. Such a guy would not die. Who died? Huang Shishi looked at Ecchi, and his eyes flashed. He thought that the boy was going to be ridiculous again, but he didn't expect that he had a nose and eyes, and I believe he wasn't making up on the spot. But Huang Shishi didn't want to let him go, and then said, this Panan's death was due to his own fault. Although it is because he is handsome, but the character of this person is really unsatisfactory, and it cannot be concluded that the more handsome the man is, the more handsome he is. Faster. Well, let me tell you about the illusions of another handsome male defender in my hometown. Ecchi smiled and said, in fact, this defender and Panana said before are a period of time, want to say beautiful men. This defender is better than Panan. How handsome is he? He is so handsome that he can dregs, not only women, but also men. A moment ago you said that Panan is not a good person, but he is different. He is not only handsome, but also a first-class character. He can say even when he was a child. The episode of cerebral hemorrhage was such that his mother never allowed him to argue with anyone. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but marvel, this guard was really a dragon and a phoenix. He looks beautiful, has good morals, and can say so. Shouldn't this man be miserable? Ecchi laughed. Do you know how he died in the end? Lin Zishan stepped out first and smiled. I guess he is a prince who worships him, and eventually dies, or else he will get Taoism and immortality, eternal immortality. His son Lin Jinwei disagreed, saying, according to Yezioch, there is no such thing as a dead man. I guess it was a complete death. Ecchi couldn't help but sigh. Why people, Really, why people, it seems that any world is not lacking gossip women, and too is not lacking YY men. Everyone else was thinking, how did this guard die? Even the Prince Li Qingxun who was sitting in the car couldn't help thinking about how the guard would die. Huang Shishi was rather clever and opportunistically said, I guess his death must be related to women. Ye Kong snapped his fingers and said, the death of this guardian is indeed related to the woman, but not one or two women, but thousands of women. The guardian is forbidden to argue with others. My heart was depressed. One day, while no one was at home, I sneaked out of the house and ran to the capital city Jianyi to play. The woman in Jianyi city heard that the idol Wei Wei came, and the women in the city moved in and took the newly arrived Jianyi. I was surrounded by 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. The innermost woman only looked at Wei Wei, and all of them were stunned, and then the next row was stunned. Trapped for 3 days and 3 nights, I was exhausted to death by this peerless handsome man. Later I left an illusion, historically said to watch kill Wei Wei, that is to say Wei Wei was seen to death of. What, he turned out to be seen dead. Almost everyone did not expect such death. There was killing, old death, furious death, scared death, and I have never heard of being seen dead. If the eye can kill someone, he has died at least 1,000 times. There is a realistic version of this kind of dog blood. Really, Huang Shishi could not help but frown. Ye Kong laughed, this is recorded in ancient books from my hometown. I don't know if it is true or false, but there is a word you should know, that is, red and blue, but it is actually thin. Huang Shishi nodded and laughed, well, I wanted to sneer at you but didn't expect to give you a chance to perform. If you let the performance go on, I think you will soon be seen dead. Since ancient times, beauties loved talents. A large row of women behind Huang Shishi's paintings had madly discharged him. Someone on the ground seemed to be taking a sauna. Ye Kong smiled bitterly, no, I'm not handsome, and I'm just a hooligan. In fact, not only the women who painted the sounds of magic, but even Xianxia behind them listened to God. In the heart, what exactly is this Ye Kong? He is a mortal who does not practice, but talks in front of a crowd of Yuanying Zhenjun. He is not frightened at all. This calmness and grace, there are several men in the world who can do it. Xianxia was a little lost, until Ye Kong called her 3 times, and she quickly agreed to release 3 large cylinders from the storage bag. All 3 large tanks were sealed with metal materials. Ye Kong asked, Sister Huang Shishi, do you want to open the tank to check it? Otherwise something goes wrong, I don't admit it. Huang Shishi laughed, I don't dare to lie to me. He reached out and closed 3 large cylinders with a storage ring. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 669. Please come to the 5th floor. Huang Shishi walked into Li Chenai's car, raised his hand and let out 3 large tanks, and let Li Chenai look at them. He said, Zhongju, you don't want to drink anymore, these 3 tanks are enough for you to drink until you rise. Give me all 3 tanks, do you really think I'm an alcoholic? Li Chenxian stood up with a smile, and saw a few big words carved on the tank, the exclusive secret system of Hehuanzong, groaning afterwards. Li Chenai looked at it for a moment. She never believed in Ye Kong's words. She always thought that it was Ye Kong who had accidentally learned how to make it and made it herself. Otherwise, he meets the Shadow Clan, which is given to him by the Shadow Clan. You can see the wine on this tank. Li Chen is gone, what acacia is really made. However, once upon a time, a man vowed swearing that the wine can only be made by their Shadow Clan. Li Chenxian looked cold, please Mr. Ye Kong come in and speak. Ye Kong was talking to Lin Zishan about his brother and brother Lin, I said I'll give you 10 pounds, but I was drunk a lot by this prodigal wife when I went out, a little less, don't be surprised. Lin Zishan suddenly apologized, brother Ye, I'm embarrassed, why don't you say that my siblings love this one too, otherwise I'm embarrassed to win love. Although he was polite, but he was not polite, raised a hand and put a few gourds into the storage bracelet. This is the case of the appetite mozong. They love to eat, and value food. When they see something delicious, their mother-in-law can ignore it. Yekong has become a habit of talking with people. He said these words with a purpose, waiting for Lin Zixin to apologize. At the moment, he quickly hit the snake, and laughed, "Well, brother Lin, you're welcome. It's okay, I can go back and do her ideological work." "Brother, don't you feel embarrassed? You must be really sorry. Let me, my prodigal wife, go to your 5th floor to watch the sightseeing." Lin Zixin frowned, and let Yekong go up even if it was a big face. "If you let others go up, if this kid invited a lot of people up, damn, would NT the rules of the appetite demons be completely finished?" Fortunately, his son Lin Jinwei's brain was alive, and he whispered in Lin Zixin's ear. Lin Zixin suddenly had an idea. "Brother, yeah, I can promise you this request, but there are 2 small conditions. First, she is the only one. Second, she cannot go up the stairs, and I must take her up by teleport." Yekong listened to discomfort. "NND, I gave you wine without attaching conditions to you, cannot take the stairs, sneak up on the floor? That means a bird." Yan Shuai stood silent, but in fact she listened to Yekong and Lin Zixin talking. Although it was unpleasant for someone to call her prodigal wife, she also knew that someone was trying to get her a chance. Today, her 2 main goals are to look at her idol Li Chinayu, but she seems to have not seen it. The second is to watch the light on the 5th floor of the upper belly building, and then taste 2 dishes, then it is very cool. After that, I can say that I have been to the 5th floor of the upper belly house. Who have you been to? Hearing Lin Zixin's 2 conditions, although Yan Shuai had regrets, she was relieved when she thought about it. After all, she could go up to the 5th floor. Aggrieved. But Yekong did not want to let her suffer such grievances. Although it was a fake wife and a fake wife, it was also about Lao Zi's face. What is the most important thing for a hooligan? Of course, face. How to do without face? Since this is inconvenient for the brother, I haven't talked about being a brother. Yekong was originally a dog face, and when he turned it, it turned out to be very ugly. However, Yan Shuai was surging, and this man is really a man. In order not to let his wife suffer a little bit of grievance, how dare he face the Yuanying Zhenjun? However, you are too brave, and you, a mortal who has not cultivated, can lift you up with your fingers to kill you. Yekong, or just forget it, Yan Shuai said quickly. Yekong waved his hand and interrupted. Of course, no matter where Ye went, he went in diligently, and went out diligently, letting my lady sneakily eat. This kind of meal is better not to eat. When someone comes to ask me in the future, I will never go again. This is so crazy, so numb, it's numb. Crabs will lose their paws when they are crazy. In fact, when Yekong first started sulking, Lin Zixin was very annoyed. Damn, you are a mortal, and you get a 3-point color, and you opened a dying room? If I can promise you that way, I have already given me face. What else do you do? How dare you treat me like this? Even if you old man Yan Jiayan dare not speak like this in front of me. But when Lin Zixin heard Yekong's last arrogant words, he couldn't help but be agitated. This kid is not an ordinary mortal. He is so mad that he must be hesitant. He might come to ask him someday. Don't say it's impossible. I'll just drive off the 5th floor today and ask him to go to the burning room. With a pot of wine, he can make the Huan Zhenjun wait for him for an hour. Seeing his behavior, he was bold and unrestrained, and he was careful about the Li Zhenjun, but he didn't panic. This is not an ordinary mortal. Lin Zixin suddenly made a choice in his heart, grinning his teeth and said, Brother, yeah, don't be ashamed of my brother or me. Since it is the younger brother and sister who want to go up, of course, they are going up the ladder. The formal rules greeted the siblings on the 5th floor, sweeping the dust all the way, and never let the siblings feel a little wronged. This time it was Yan Shuhui's turn to shoot an idiot-like light. Oh my god, is there something wrong with my ears? Lin Zishan, a Yuanying Zhenjun, said such a compromise to this mortal person. Not only from the main ladder, but also to arrange a welcome to sweep the road dust, fainted and could not understand. Yan Shuhui really wanted to ask, Ye Kong, what is your origin? Is this Lin Zishan's old man? Ye Kong didn't expect that he really bluffed Lin Zishan, and he laughed suddenly. Brother Lin, you are so good, rest assured, as long as you invite me, I will come. You do invite me, I also come often. Okay, it must be Lin Zishan was despondent to die, NND. I have never seen such a humorous mortal in this life, as if he had come to eat it for nothing. While they were talking, it was as if Li Chenai's door curtains were lifted and no one came out. A pair of melons holding up their clothes came out first. Which man was not drooling at the scene, but really dared to provoke it, but not. Huang Shishi is already a great success for Yuan Ying. I don't know when I can become a god. Everyone on the scene, except Li Chenjiang, counts her as the highest and takes her advantage. You are really impatient. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 670. Dogs biting Lu Dongbin. Huang Shishi stepped out, smiled at someone's coquettishness, beckoned, and got into the car again. The bachelor's eyes could not rub the sand. All the bachelors at the scene could clearly see that Huang Shishi 80% had an affair with this mortal. Although he didn't say a word, the action explained everything. Lin Zishan was relieved. Fortunately, he just gave him face, otherwise he might not be able to mix in the iron painting realm. Talents, a mortal who has not cultivated, and has actually taken Yuan Ying's great and successful Zhenjun into his hands. Brother Ye, admire it. Lin Zishan winked. Ye Kong only smiled bitterly. This Huang Shishi was obviously intentional. He wanted to stir up his husband and wife relationship in person and make Yan Shuhui jealous. In fact, Ye Kong and Yan Shuhui are only paying homage to the church. Yan Shuhui cannot be jealous. Even if jealous, Ye Kong doesn't matter. But Ye Kong thought, didn't Yan Shuhui want to see Li Chenai? I just took this opportunity to talk about it in advance. Shuhui, come in with me. Ye Kong took Yan Shuhui's hand and walked into Li Chenai's carriage. Ye Kong stepped into Li Chenai's carriage one step, paused, then hurriedly backed out, and checked the size of the carriage again, and then walked in again. Viewed from the outside, Li Chen's carriage is very small and exquisite, and the carriage is not as large as Yan Shuhui's. But when I went in and saw it, it wasn't the case. The carriage was actually a very large room. This is why Ye Kong exited in surprise. I don't know, Huang Shishi sarcastically said. Ye Kong laughed, isn't it just a superb weapon? If the monk sees that this is a superb weapon, it is normal, but this mortal can understand it. It seems that the boy is relatively familiar with the immortal. It's not a bad tone. Huang Shishi lost her eyes, but saw Yan Shuhui coming in behind. She just let Ye Kong come in, but the boy brought Yan Shuhui in. Boy, who asked you to bring someone in? Huang Shishi said again. Ye Kong laughed. Sister Shishi, under these eyes, a man walked into the carriages of the two seniors, and rumors were unavoidable outside. In order to avoid the damage of Shishi's reputation, so this only brought the prospective wife in. You're thinking for me. It seems that I want to thank you, too, Huang Shishi hummed poorly. Thank you for not having to thank me. If Sister Shishi is really unhappy, you can give 180,000 spirit stones. Li Chenai listened to their quarrel, was impatient in his heart, and coughed. When they stopped, he asked, Mr. Ye Kong. After listening to what he just talked about, even Li Chenjiang called Mr., someone was very happy. Don't dare, what advice does the Lord have? I'm like asking, is this Huan Hoyan really a special product of the Acacia sect, but it can be produced elsewhere, and is this Acacia sect? Ye Kong was depressed. I didn't understand why Li Chenzheng kept holding on to this problem. I sell wine, you buy wine, and you control where the wine comes from. Master Su, in fact, this wine was donated by a friend I met, but they are not Ying clan, and according to my friend, this wine is special. Among them, the fruit of the acacia tree, which is unique to their acacia, must be added, so even it's difficult for others to get recipes. Li Qingxun nodded and said to himself, he won't lie to me, presumably the Shadow clan also has acacia trees growing. Ye Kong is somewhat inexplicable, although he will lie to him. Why is she talking about a Shadow clan? Ye Kong looked at Huang Shishi in doubt, and soon remembered Huang Shishi's voice. Well, don't stop talking nonsense, it's nothing to do with you, but there was a Shadow clan man who told her that the wine was only their Shadow clan. Yes, she just wants to confirm it. If what he said is true, other words are also true. If this sentence is false, other words are likely to be false. Ye Kong suddenly realized that she was in love with Li Chinayu. No wonder she found that the wine could not wait to call herself upstairs. She wanted to use it to retrieve the memories of the man and the man. The so-called handsome guy is reliable, sows can all go up the tree. Lord Zong is now of transformation. I think Lord Zong still needs to practice with peace of mind, not to be troubled by foreign objects. Huang Shishi listened to the boy's words, and hurriedly gestured to someone to stop talking. Huang Shishi did not dare to persuade Li Chenxian about these things, and he really caused the gods to be mad. 1,000 leaves were not enough to die. Sure enough, Li Chenjun was furious. Shut up. I let you talk. I dare to care about my business. Damn, the dog bit LV Dongbin and didn't like people. Ye Kong angrily arched his hand. The is alone in herding the wine, and will not be accompanied any more. After Ye Kong said Yan Shuai and pulled away, he saw Huang Shishi froze. This kid is really crazy. Does he really not know what it means to be afraid? You know, this is a character who will shake in the iron painting realm in the late deification period. Not only did Ye Kong leave Li Chinayu, he walked out of the carriage and sang, how much love can come back, how many people are worth waiting for. When I know how to cherish the return, I don't know if that love will still be. Li Chenbi was so angry with this boy that he gritted his teeth and looked at the direction of the door. Huang Shishi hurried forward and said, Master, why are you vomiting with a mortal, and he is also kind? Li Chen sighed angrily, good intentions, the song is still good. If it wasn't for you, I would take him down today. Huang Shishi laughed, what did you do to take him, and the sovereign Mo Fei also wanted to take him back as a male pet. You have nothing to say. Li Chenzheng was laughed and cursed by Huang Shishi. Sister Shishi, you have to control your little lover, like him, you are arrogant without strength, and faster than the handsome guy. In fact, Ye Kong is also very depressed, he is not handsome and hooligan, but the woman is very good. He has a bad temper and can't control his emotions. I don't know how many people say that he is dying fast, but he is not dead. Heck, I can't figure it out. After coming out, Lin Zishan invited him and Yan Shuai to the 5th floor, but it was still too late for dinner. Ye Kongwan refused, and took Yan Shuai back to Yan's house. After this day, Yan Shuai's interest in her idol Li Chenxian diminished sharply, and her interest in opposing a hooligan surged. Ye Kong, what song did you just sing? It really sounds good. Is it a song from your hometown? Yes. It's so nice. Can you sing again? Let me learn. Listen. How much love can come to you? How many people wait in bed? When they return after having a big belly, they don't know if their dad is still. My aunt. Hello indecent. To the reader. 4 chapters are delivered, and tomorrow will erupt. Hee hee. Xiaoman quickly coded, otherwise it won't come out tomorrow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 671. 671 Leaves Empty Marriage. Yesterday, a beautiful reader asked me, Huahua is too old, a very young ancestor, are you very ugly, so is he handsome? To clarify, there is no such thing as handsome men, my ancestor and I are more handsome and handsome, hee, I'm sorry to boast about myself. Then I ask everyone to support it. Recently, a chapter has been added every day. Xiaoman is really a bit tired. I know that my fellow Taoists consider me and don't want to make me so tired. I thank everyone. However, it's okay to be tired. The key is to exceed 1000 points every day. I am tired and happy, if it is less than 1000 points, I will rest. I know that you do NT want to give me the brick and votes, I just can't remember, I often forget to vote for myself. So remind everyone, bricks, recommended tickets, favorites. Hee, I'm sorry for your delay, sorry. Oh, 8 chapters today. With the Spirit Stone, Yekong also let go of his hands and feet, bought the corresponding spiritual grass materials, and went to the Yan family refining pharmacy to open a room dedicated to him for refining medicine. Yekong was also worried that the Yan family did not have a suitable tinder, but after going to see it, the Yan family refining the tinder was still very good. It is a kind of high-grade fire called Kangminghuo. Kangminghuo, as the name suggests, comes from Kangminghuo. Yekong was puzzled. How could there be fire in space? And even if there is, how can I get the tinder back? Later, under the explanation of Yan Shuai, I learned that the tinder was the ancestor of the Yan family to explore in Kangming, and accidentally entered a place called Wuxingxianfu, where the tinder was obtained. Yekong heard the 5 elements Xianfu, and he had no reason to move, but now he has lost his cultivation, and even if he recovers, it is impossible to explore Kangming, so he did not ask about it, but he remembered the name of the 5 elements Xianfu. Since returning from selling wine that day, everyone in the Yan family has changed his attitude. Wu Changling and Yan Hexiang avoided him when they saw him, for fear that the boy would bother them. And those in the house gave him an aunt, including the steward Yan Fu, as if Ye was already the owner of the Yan family, treating him like a grandfather. Of course, Yekong's spirit stone didn't spend less, so he threw 2 lower quality spirit stones to the servant, Huan. What, reactive power? Forget it, you're really embarrassed and go to the door to do 100 push UPS. What is the shame of slaves? Then knock on the master, the short leg in the middle is eliminated. For these acts of someone, Yan Shuai spit out 3 words lightly, the upstart. Although frivolous, it can be seen that Yan Shuai seems to be enchanted, and every day the ghost stays with Yekong and can't rush away. In Yan Shuai's words, I am witnessing and abandoning your upstart behavior. Since she is going to follow, well, I happen to have no errands. Clover, buy me 50 pounds, hurry up, what are you grinding? Yan Shuai stunned. People buy these are all on the plant. You are better off. Well, it's your stinky money, I'll spend it for you. Yan Shuai just came back, and someone arranged it again, go and bring me lunch, tell the kitchen, the spiritual flesh is going to Reiki, my master mortal can't stand it, oh there, give I'll bring 2 bottles of the best wine in your house. Yan Shuai replied, you don't have good wine, why do you want our Yan's wine? I can't rinse my mouth. Yan Shuai was about to vomit blood. Oh, our best house wine is only for you to gargle, fainted, then my dad drank it all his life, dare to be your mouthwash? Hurry up, don't let go. Yan Shuai ran out, not forgetting to curse, the upstart. The rich man. Xianxia pressed him to run errands for only one purpose, that is, to watch his joke. Our Yan family has so much medicine, isn't it enough for you to eat? Want to make your own medicine? I'll take a look at what you finally made. 3 days later, everything was ready, but the alchemy did not begin, but the date of the big wedding had arrived. The Yan family had a special office this time, and almost all the big families from Taihuajing had been invited. That night it was lively, with lots of red lanterns, firecrackers rang out, and gongs and drums. Of course, what makes Yan Fenjian's face the most is that the owner of the realm actually ordered someone to send her a painting made by herself. The master of the video demon monarch, the late monk of the deification, and sent someone to make a painting in person, which is not something ordinary people can enjoy. The guests couldn't help but marvel. Yan Fenjian's face was very bright. He knew that the Lichenjun was not giving face to him, but to son-in-law. This son-in-law has lost such a good job. If he wants to repair it, he doesn't know what it looks like. However, Yan Fenjian, who was the picture-sounding demon who came to send the pictures, frowned with the girl, and Yan Fenjian was upset again. Every Jurchen is rushing to catch Yekong. Why is her daughter so embarrassed? Another thing that made Yan Fenjian face is Lin Zishan and Lin Jinwei's father and son came together to congratulate Yan Fenjian, which made Yan Fenjian extremely surprised. Yan Fenjian made Dan Ziwei, the friends he met were all in the same realm, and a few Yuanying Zhenjun came to him, which really flattered him. However, the question of title made him worry. Lin Zishan Yuanying Zhenjun, he must be called senior. But Lin Zishan called his brother-in-law, would he also call his senior Yekong in the future? What backup is your own daughter? It's a headache. Everyone ate, smirked, and it wasn't until midnight that Yekong and Yanshuai were sent into the cave, and they were born. In the night of the cave, the candlelight shook red, and the red high word reflected the hearts of everyone. Yekong closed the door with his backhand and looked at Yanshuai, who was wearing a red suit and a red hijab. Sitting beside the bed, Yekong felt that his heartbeat was speeding up. Although he knew that this was a false marriage, he could not help but feel anxious in this atmosphere. He actually had the idea to make a mistake with Yanshuai. Yanshuai also throbbed in her heart. Once the big girl got on the car head, even if it was fake, she couldn't help but be excited and nervous. Finally, the red hijab was lifted by Yekong, and under the red candle, that red fluttering face was so touching, and those big beautiful eyes, moist and full of red lips. He wouldn't really treat me. Yanshuai clenched his fists nervously, thinking that if this upstart really wanted to kick me, I would punch him. But what surprised Yanshuai was that someone suddenly looked up angrily and said, "I said, elder sister, don't you know that peeping at other people's things will make you corny?" Sure enough, Huang Shishi's proud laughter resounded. How about? Yuan Ying's great consummation is an annoyance. I accidentally let go of my consciousness, giggle, I'm also a woman, let me see? Yekong smiled evilly and said, you are also a woman. You should not be interested in my wife, right? I think the older sister should want to see me, or I'll let the older sister see clearly. When someone finished speaking, she held her belly very shamelessly, and kept busy unfastening her belt. Huang Shishi finally couldn't stand it, and scolded, take your daughter-in-law slowly. After that, there was no more voice. Yanshuai was relieved. She said that if you do leave, I will have to accompany you to look at his ugly things, which really stains our women's eyes. This kid is really indecent, even this kind of trick makes it come out. However, looking back, if it was not Yekong's hooligan move, it would not be so easy to scare Huang Shishi away. Yanshuai was relieved, but suddenly thought of another problem. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Jian. Chapter 672. Get married in Danfang on June 7.2. The question that Yanshuai thought was, I didn't feel her consciousness. How did you feel that you didn't cultivate? UNUND completely monitors people like us, and we can completely prevent us from discovering it. Yekong sat next to her and said, not everything needs to be felt to be sure. Everything must be used. With guessing and reasoning, and temptation, you can find details you didn't feel. Xianxia said, you don't know, you just tempted at that throat. That's right. Xianxia seemed to be seeing Yekong for the first time, and it took a while to say, your plan is deep enough. Yekong smiled bitterly. Is there any way, those old guys after Yuanying, who are not good old ghosts? If I were not careful and my brain was enough, I would have died 800 times earlier. Xianxia laughed, it seems that you are very experienced, do you often deal with these old ghosts before losing your cultivation? Yekong laughed, of course. Don't hide from you. At that time, all of my 5 followers were Yuanying Zhenjun. Cut, come less, you are just 3 sentences, and none of them is true. Xianxia praised his watery eyes. Yekong is speechless. For years now, no one believes the truth. Dongfang, the house used to enter the cave. But unfortunately, there are no fragrant and colorful stories in this cave room today. When Huang Shishi was in trouble, Yekong lost his mind. The two were speechless for a while, and Xianxia remembered another key question for a while. Yekong, you said, then Huang Shishi will not pretend to be gone, but he is still peeping at us with his sense of God. Yekong smiled bitterly. He just guessed that Huang Shishi would peek. But if Huang Shishi is still peeking, then there is nothing he can do. After all, they are Yuanying's great cultivation practice. I want to see which couple's house is not working. What? Yekong laughed, what can I do? We can't really show her once. Xianxia flushed suddenly, scolding, I also said that I want to be a hooligan with taste. You see, you are even more hooligan than the hooligan on the street. The two were speechless for a while. Yekong felt very embarrassed, stood up, stretched a lazy waist, and smiled bitterly, well, the night is slow, how do you spend it? When Xianxia turned her head, she immediately thought of a good idea, Yekong, let's go to the alchemy. Yekong only shook his head and laughed. Well, people get married and enter the cave house, and I get married into the Dan house. Well, idle is also idle, go to the furnace to refine the alchemy, if you don't get the red pills, take the Dan pills. Go to death. The Yan family's Danfang is open all day and night. Even at this moment, many Dan masters are still busy in the Danfang. The experience of alchemy is very important. It is not as good as the control of the weather, the refining of the elixir material, and the time of the furnace opening. These are very important. But these are not the most important, the most important is Danfang. Danfang is a kind of material required for a kind of elixir, the proportion of each material, the amount used and so on. If there is no Danfang, no superb alchemy technology can make alchemy. Often in those alchemy families, Danfang is their most secret item. It is more important than life. A lost high-end Danfang can even be worth more than Gubeo. Yanfang's Danfang is also kept secret. Those Dan Shi and his buddies have obtained a good mix of materials and have been made into powder. In addition, Yan Fenjiun added a lot of irrelevant materials to them before looking at them, so looking at those powders, even the experienced Danchi couldn't tell which flavors were in them. Even if they can learn about several materials used in Danfang by smelling, tasting, etc., but the proportion of specific materials, it is difficult to analyze. As the sole heir of the Yan family, Xianxia has followed Yan Fenjiun's alchemy since she was a child. The formulation of these elixir has long been familiar to her, but she did not tell Yekong that she was waiting to see the kids joke. Yekong has lost all his strength now. Of course, it is impossible to practice alchemy by himself. He only had to ask Xianxia to help, and he acted as an on-site guide. 3 qingling grasses, 5 tiger bone branches, and 8 mussel leaves? Listening to Yekong's instructions, Xianxia put in the same material and started the initial purification of the material, but the more she put it, the more she felt wrong. These materials are consistent with the Danfang she has mastered. She can even clearly see from the materials that Yekong wants to refine the basic elixir of Dawandan and Yanjiayuan Dan. The key problem is that the proportion of these materials is completely wrong, and most of them are much heavier than the weight recorded on their Yan family's Danfang. Although I have a joke, I can't help looking at so many materials. Finally, Xianxia could nt bear it. Dan. Xianxia asked. Yes, there is something wrong. There is a problem. The weight of the materials you put in is seriously wrong. Although I am not a master of alchemy, but I still remember the most basic material composition, Xianxia solemnly reminded. But Yekong shook his head and said, it's impossible. I remember you wrongly, and I can't remember it wrong. Yekong, this is according to the weight of the alchemy that Lianruolan gave him. How can Lianruolan lie to him? Xianxia also said rightly, absolutely you are wrong. If you remember correctly, it is the Danfang you saw. How is it possible that you stop talking nonsense, and let you practice as much as I want? Your weight is too heavy. Yekong laughed, no wonder your Dawandan refining effect is so poor, I dare to lose 2 pounds. You bullshit. Xianxia was angry this time, and she said to herself, regardless of the material of our Yan family, it would be wasted. You just wait for failure. Half an hour later, the 64 capsules of Danhuan in the first furnace had all formed their embryonic form. They lay quietly in a large drawer, pushed the furnace, and they could be refined. The ratio is seriously wrong, you just have to wait for the abolition of Dan, Xianxia also snorted. Che, do you remember the most basic Danfang when I returned to Dan? You remember correctly, don't I remember correctly? The two looked at each other head to head, although both were glaring, but because of their proximity, Yekong smelt a faint scent in his nose, which was the fragrance of the girl and the fragrance of virginity. Yekong smiled, Shuhui, if we make a bet, if it succeeds, you will let me deal with it. If it fails, I will let you deal with it. How?